Hi everyone, now I've created a special webinar called the Newsletter Code where I'll teach you everything you need to know about newsletter marketing. Now you'll be surprised to learn that a simple newsletter can actually help you increase your annual revenue by as much as $40,000 a year, and I'll show you how that works in just a second. Also, I'm conducting a special webinar like I mentioned called the Newsletter Code. You can go ahead and register for the webinar by clicking on the register link on this page. Now let me tell you the biggest mistake that most private practice owners make when it comes to newsletters is relying on clinical content alone. Now clinical content is the content in your newsletter that's all the technical stuff that they can easily get, that patients can easily get online or in a magazine. Most private practice owners make the same mistake, which is pretty much including 90% clinical content in your newsletter. Now you'll be astonished to learn that clinical content should actually be less than 40% of your newsletter. The rest of the content should be bonding content and authority content. Now I've helped private practice owners send out millions of newsletters over the past several years, and what we've actually found is that people associate with people, which means patients actually want to identify with you, want to know more about you. And if you make yourself an interesting character, if you make yourself an interesting person, if they get to know a little bit about your life, perhaps they get to know a little bit about your pet, your family, your kids, then they actually want to read your newsletter. Then your newsletter has what's called as a pass along value. And more consumption of your newsletter always results in more results, more impact with your newsletter. Another mistake that a lot of private practice owners make is relying on email alone as a form of delivery. Now that's a mistake because, as I'll explain in the webinar, relying on email alone is almost like having your entire 401k in one stock. You don't want to do that. What you want to do is have multiple modes of distribution. You want to have email, you want to have print, you want to distribute your newsletter by fax to doctors, and you also want to have a video version of your newsletter. And don't forget, you should also have a direct mail component of your newsletter where you actually send out the newsletter by mail to patients. Now, I'll discuss the ROI aspect of this, what kind of a return on investment you can get with newsletter marketing inside the webinar. So go ahead and register for the webinar. I'm conducting it over the next few days. And the most important thing about newsletter marketing is, of course, like I mentioned, ROI. Think about it. If you're sending out a newsletter, the newsletter can get you 2 to 3 new patient referrals a month. I'll actually show you how to get 2 to 3 new patient referrals a month with a newsletter in the webinar. Now that actually equates to anywhere between 24 and 36 new patients a year. Now for most private practices, if you know what a patient is worth to you every year, let's just assume the patient is worth $1,200 a year for you. Okay. Now this takes into account the average reimbursement per visit multiplied by the number of visits. You can easily see how a newsletter can generate an additional $40,000 a year in revenue for you if you do it right. Now, as I said, I'm going to show you exactly how all of this works in the webinar. Go ahead and register for the newsletter code. I look forward to working with you and training you and teaching you and leading you throughout the whole process of newsletter marketing. Thank you so much.